Okay, the next question is who is ascending? Okay, this was an interesting one. Dr. David R. Hawkins of Consciousness Research said that initially you as an ego person, here you might hear about spiritual teachings, or you might hear about enlightenment, and maybe in a Buddhist sense. There's also the great enlightenment of the Renaissance of like Italy, Amsterdam is the Renaissance out of the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. But that's not, even though they were of, well, it's an interesting idea, but it's not the same as Buddhist enlightenment. Those people were about the rational mind. So the age of reason, and there was unbelievably beautiful art. They really appreciated art, and the very wealthy people, the aristocrats who had money, would become patrons of especially talented musicians and artists, so that the musicians could make music, write music, and the great artists could paint or they could sculpt. And I suppose even like stonemasons could build beautiful castles and palaces and churches. So the people who were very wealthy, they would be a patron, and then they would pay for the living expenses of these artists. So the artists didn't have to do, um, work at McDonald's and flip burgers all day in order to make enough money so that they could pay their rent and pay their food. No, the patron would pay the living expenses for these different kinds of artists, so they could do nothing all day except do art. Did these artists ever get to go on vacations? It seems like they were kept very busy doing their art. So I don't know if they ever had a chance to enjoy things that weren't totally to do with what art they were making. Anyway, that was the way things were in the Renaissance times. Our modern world, what do the billionaires do with their money? Apparently, Bill Gates is working on a new vaccine to sterilize a lot of young women, to put RFID not computer chips, identification chips into us, so that we can be part of the digital money economy. I don't know if it's true or not. I just keep seeing this. And if that's as good as the billionaire class today, why don't they look back at the Renaissance days and become a patron of the arts? Do something good for humanity. They make them all out to be lunatics. Like, remember? Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Okay, so a Buddhist enlightenment has got to do with completely letting go of your ego and letting spirit run you. What's spirit? It's spirit doesn't die. Like the ego of a human, I don't know if it dies after you die in the physical. The Buddhists say probably this speck of awareness goes on and it becomes reborn. But the mind that goes with it, the Buddhists say it doesn't go on, but that conflicts with perhaps the Hindu, and even the Tibetan Buddhists don't go with that. The Tibetan Buddhists believe that some piece of you, beyond just being a speck of awareness, reincarnates. So I don't think they got their shit straight as to what exactly reincarnates, but I've seen enough of these different talks that they don't have it straight. And so let's go with what exactly. Well, I said earlier, maybe in the last talk, that an ego of a human hears about enlightenment, a Buddhist kind of enlightenment, reads the story of Buddha and says, yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's do that. And the question is, well, does that egoic personality become enlightened or something else? Dr. David R. Hawkins said maybe the ego starts off wanting this, but it's not the ego that gets enlightened. It's mostly the ego that has to let go of itself so that something greater can come through. And if we go back to Richard Maurice Buck, who I was talking about in the last talk, um, Buck said generally after age 30, this is when, if it's going to happen in the past to people he studied, that's when these kind of enlightenment things are going to happen. About the oldest person in his study was maybe just over 50 when this happened. And then he said the sad thing was, in some cases, people's cosmic consciousness went away when they got older, and they felt so abandoned by this cosmic consciousness that kept them company. Dr. David R. Hawkins of Consciousness Research said, once you set your intention on enlightenment, then it's not you doing things to get that enlightenment. It's enlightenment itself. It's more conscious, more conscious, more, I'm going to go with intelligent than you are. So it, once you've set the intention on it, it acts like a magnet and it pulls you towards this higher and higher consciousness. Sometimes people that are on the enlightenment path fall off the path into spiritual traps of various types. Some of them get intoxicated with God, and then they get stuck. Now, there was one enlightened man who I read about who specialized in helping these people who were stuck in God. If you were God intoxicated, they put you in a psych ward because you couldn't relate to any other humans. You were drunk on this God, whatever was going on in you. And he was able to help a lot of these. They were called masts. I don't know why. It's a weird name. MASTS. And, okay, so I can't remember the name of this particular guru. Anyway, he's passed on out of the body. What else do we want to talk about when it comes to... Dr. Hawkins said that some people, well, 700 on the scale of human consciousness is where he said you get enlightenment. And then you can go up as far as 1,000 on the scale of human consciousness and still have a physical human body. Beyond that, that's as much energy, spiritual energy, as the body can carry. So 1,000 was Jesus, Buddha, Zoroaster, Krishna. But he said other ones, they might stop at a certain level of consciousness beyond 700 and just stick there. And then sometimes they would stick there and something would trigger them to continue growing in consciousness. Something is continuing to make me have heartburn. Oh well. Dr. Hawkins implied that as far as you get in this lifetime, on the scale of human consciousness, if you reincarnate back on planet Earth, you carry with you all of the work that you did in this lifetime into the next lifetime, whatever you realized as your consciousness. So in this lifetime, if you got to level 200, which is a good number if you were highly negative before, you would incarnate as a baby at 200. And you have the opportunity to build on that. You might have a bad lifetime and you might slip. Born at 200, and then you might go down to like 185 in that lifetime because you got caught up with the wrong people, the wrong things. But whatever you made 200, so you somehow get to keep that for maybe another try, another lifetime. In essence, you've got endless lifetimes to ascend up the scale of human consciousness. He said that in an average lifetime on planet Earth today, you make about 4 points. If you don't go on a spiritual path and you don't do anything to improve your consciousness, about 4 points. Like if you're what he called a householder, basically somebody who has a job, business person maybe, and you didn't do anything spiritual, no inner work, about 4 points, and then you'd have to reincarnate very long time, doing these very long lives for 4 points. That's horrible. He said, if you hear about doing the consciousness work, you can easily get to unconditional love level 540 in one lifetime. It's not enlightened, but that's a big jump because until 1987, the collective consciousness of humanity was actually under 200 on the scale of human consciousness, highly negative. So he said, if you hear about this, you should go for unconditional love in this lifetime. Some people could get even higher on the scale of consciousness. He said a lot of it was due to your karmic propensities, which seems unfair to you because you're an ego, and you look at every other of the 7.5 billion egos in this place called Earth, and you think, well, why is it some other people could, go higher than me? Well, that's just what he said. Maybe some other people have had a number of incarnations where they've been working very hard at raising their consciousness. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a new soul. I don't know. But he always said karmic propensities. And in this other book that I'm reading, The Magician of Lhasa, which is about Tibetan Buddhists, they said that if you die, you have two kind of throws of the dice to determine your next birth. The first throw is to see whether you're going to be even human in your next birth. And then the second throw is the first throw says you're going to be human. The second throw is to see if you're going to get decent parents. And to the Tibetan Buddhists, decent parents are going to be parents that are educated in Tibetan Buddhism. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. And God knows I've got so many things I can talk about, so I'm sure it'll be fresh. Sort of.